Just before I really get into a conversation here, I want to say, Doyaksit Nusum, thank you all for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your lives, your families, your communities, to do the work that you've been elected to do, but to also be willing to come here to listen, learn, and to share. And I also just want to say that it's important for us to have this opportunity to get to know each other face to face, because that's how business truly gets done, when we actually get to know each other, in person and in our traditions. So thank you everyone for being here. Represent about 70 to 80% of all Indigenous peoples that are seeking housing in urban areas in the province of BC. And we've been doing that for 50 plus years. Many of those people are dispossessed, much like myself, through the legacy of residential schools, day schools, conflicts and challenges that we face as people who have been taken away from our communities, not connected to our traditional communities. We have many people that have had to leave their traditional communities because they need healthcare, or they need education, or they need employment. And so they're disconnected and they're dispossessed into the urban, rural, and northern communities. Our story has never changed. The story of the urban Indigenous peoples has never changed. The story of the journey to reconciliation has never changed. We've just changed the paths and the vehicles that we use to bring those voices forward, to help educate you, our elected officials, in a way that can empower you to actually not only meet your mandates, but meet, as you heard on the video, ethical and moral responsibilities to your communities.
What you and what your video has said so eloquently is a lot of what I've been thinking and feeling. And so there are frontline community organizations that are part of it. And the principle is, the very kinds of things you've been talking about is the social determinants of health.
Yeah.
And so I would love to have further conversations about how we can integrate. You can make a huge difference for everybody in Burnaby.
And so AHMA has been that voice, and AHMA has been filling that gap for over 30 years now. We actually have about 6,500 units across the province of BC. The work that we do as urban Indigenous leaders is beyond the bricks and mortar. It's really about being able to build those senses of well-being by providing a spectrum of services. We have over 50 housing and support service providers across the entire province of British Columbia. And many of you, while you may not have heard of AHMA, you likely have heard of those individual housing and supportive services that are working in your communities and helping you meet the issues, the housing crises, the health crises, the well-being crises that most of our communities are being challenged with. Many of our providers have been doing their work for nearly 50 or more years.
I just wanted to say thank you for your work. You'll know that in New Westminster we are home now to LUMA Housing, which was a very unique joint endeavor between LUMA Housing Society and Swahili Vision International with the support of AHMA. And I can't tell you what an incredible difference that place has made to our community. So thank you for the work. It's so important that we keep at it. Thank you.
I shared the innovative path forward and the fact that this province agreed to partner with AHMA because they recognized that Indigenous complex care housing issues should be met by Indigenous leadership. And the success and the outcomes and the impact we're having on people's lives is incredibly real. To hear one of our youngest successes out of our first complex care, who's been on the street since she was a child, and is now sober and is now getting her life back because she had a for Indigenous, by Indigenous complex care housing model that wrapped their arms around this young woman and helped her stabilize.
I think it's important for everyone to know that AHMA is really shaking the ground not just here in BC, but across the country, in leading housing solutions for Indigenous populations. And what's important for everyone to know is that the Urban, Rural, and Northern Indigenous Housing Strategy is not just an AHMA program, it's the housing strategy for the entire community housing sector. The Co-op Housing Federation, the BC Nonprofit Housing Association, we all stand behind that strategy in complete solidarity and urge every level of government to ensure that it's fully funded and fully implemented yesterday.
We need to be working together to break those cycles down and to build pathways to security. Forget pathways out of homelessness. We're talking about opening doorways to people having a sense of safety, a sense of belonging, and integration into the communities that we're all trying to live and function in.
I wanted to thank you for doing this because you're correct, Margaret, that it's important for colleagues to know what the work that AHMA does. You know, the work AHMA does is fantastic. I want to recognize that the partnerships that AHMA has built. Most of you will have heard the Rental Protection Fund because, you know, the stories are amazing of people's homes being protected. AHMA was an integral part of making that a reality. At the same time, AHMA's worked on getting new housing, almost 1,000 new units for community come online the last few years. It's pretty significant.
It's clear that protecting, as Ravi said, protecting our existing housing and expanding our current supply is essential. Because if our people don't have a safe place to rest, they can't focus on education. They can't focus on sports. They can't focus on their community. They can't focus on their health. And they can't focus on their families. And so we need to all be on the same page and we need to be singing the same song. That's why we invited you here. We wanted to introduce you to who we are. That strategy is a collective of BC that came together to help tell us what the needs are in our communities. So I look forward to having conversations with you. I look forward to following up with you and talking how we can do work better together. And if there's anything we can do to influence the outcomes in your communities that you've been elected to represent, we would be more than happy to have those conversations.
I just want to thank you, Margaret, for the invitation to be here and to say what a warm welcome to everyone, and I hope we'll get this done.
Thank you.